welcome to this Improv Summit. I am your host, Spencer, and today with me I have Japheth Gordon. Japheth, how are you doing? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm doing great, Spencer. I'm wonderful. For those of you out there in the improv world that don't know me, I'm a performer. Well, I used to be before COVID times. I would perform sometimes at Second City, the illustrious Improv Olympic Hollywood, which is now, I don't know, some homeless guy's backyard. And now, yeah, I'm still improvising here online and yeah, living that pandemic life. I also teach improv to teenagers and young kids through John D'Aquino's Young Actors Workshop. And I'm just a lover of the prov, baby.
There we go. That's all we need is lovers of prov. So you've already talked a little bit about your improv background, but what drew you to improv specifically? And is there anything that you like gained from any of the schools or any of the training that you had that you're like, oh, this is what I'm going to take with me as I go through? But specifically, what drew you to improv in the first place?
Yeah, I think as a young kid, so I'm like a theater nerd. I was in a theater magnet program in middle school and in high school, and then I got a theater degree in college. So every time you take theater, there's like an improv element, and it was always my favorite because it was like the fun and games part, not the learning script part.
Sure.
But eventually, I kind of like as I matured, so it wasn't just about like cutting loose. I realized this is gonna get real artsy. Spencer, are you ready to get deep?
I'm ready to get real deep.
Okay. For me, improv is like one of the only moments in life when you're just in the moment. You're just right there. I spend a lot of time in my head. I have like excessive discursive thought where I'm always talking to myself and planning in the future. And improv really focuses me on each and every moment. And it's kind of like this weird wizardry of supporting people and breaking ice with strangers and getting intimate in situations that normal life doesn't allow you to. So yeah, I'm kind of like I tell people that improv should be part of your all the time life. You know, I'm almost evangelical. I tell people like you'd be better in your business meeting if you knew a little yes and how to like just bounce ideas with a friend and jump into a group game. So yeah, that's what draws me to it. It's the community and the moment to moment living.
That's great. And you kind of nailed how my brain works. I'm very left brained. So I get the idea of like always constantly thinking about stuff and always thinking about what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next. And even in improv, I would take that and I would literally just be like, okay, I don't know what's happening. So I've got to figure out what's happening before I go improvise.
I could see that. I could see you being like that, Spencer.
Yeah.
You seem like a backline Herald player who's in his brain going, all right, let me think. Let me just ignore this scene and get in here right now.
Yeah. Guess who was the best at figuring out callbacks and buttons? I'm so good at that. I'm like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do with this person. I know exactly, but getting me in a scene, it was like I had to have people like literally pull me on stage. I'm like, just pull me on stage. I'll be fine if you pull me on stage. I'm just not thinking about going on stage. And so, but then improv has really helped me guide a mix of the right and the left brain. So I think that it is one of those things where like if you feel like you're not good at it, to do it so you can get out of the idea of feeling that you're not good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Get yourself in a couple of like Herald Opens where you're just completely lost. And you're like those moments are so healthy for analytical mind.
Those organic openings, let me tell you.
A lot of whoosh, baby.
Yeah, speaking of organic openings and Herald and long form kind of moments, what is one of your favorite types of improv in general, like whether it's short form, long form, genre, narrative, whatever it is? And do you have any favorite improv like short form games?
Well, I think I prefer long form to short form. I'm a little bit of a snob. I don't know. There's something chauvinistic about my love for the art that is long form. I had my mind blown when I finally saw long form. I think the first time was at the Groundlings. Like I'd done improv my whole life, just not in an improv city. So it was always short form games. Even shows we did were very, like, let's get these two up to do this game. And then I came to LA and I went to a Groundlings Uncle Joe's show and they just made it up. And I was like, what's happening? How did he know? Like, it was so crazy for me because I had already gone through 10 years of improv and never saw long form.
Wow.
because this is pre-internet. I'm old. So like there was no there's no TJ and Dave. There was nothing to see what that juice was like. And I remember it was Stephanie Courtney, Jordan Black, Roy Jenkins. It's like a killer cast.
Wow, yeah.
And yeah, that night changed my life. Like I stayed up all night thinking like, okay, you can do a play. Like this is nuts. This is different. Like so yeah, I like long form. I think I respect and love the Herald, but in a way that like you respect and love your uncle who's in the military. It's like we're not super intimate, but thank you for your service.
Like you kind of have to.
Yeah, like you know, like, and there's a reverence. There's like an honor when he comes to Thanksgiving. You're like, yeah, that's the guy. Like I don't want to be a dick around him. He's the Herald.
Yeah. I'll wait till.
But also, yeah. But if we're gonna smoke a joint after dinner, I'm not smoking with Harold.
Right.
Yeah,
my Uncle Harold.
I think the most fun for me is, I don't know, man. I haven't thought about forms in a while. You know what I love? Showing up to a show and we're backstage, about to go on stage, and we're discussing what the show is going to be. I think that's freaking great when it's like, what do you guys want to do? 2 at the top, montage it out, pretty flower. You want to do a mono scene? And like, it just gets decided that moment. We had a great rehearsal that week and the team is just ready to pop something off. Those seem to be the best shows. Yeah, but in short form, sorry, to answer the other part of your question, my favorite short form games, I think my favorite short form games are like quick pop games, like World's Worst, like kind of like line up and hit them quick, 187 and those kind of games.
Yeah, I'm a master pun person, so I feel like those games are very suited for my left brain and my right brain without having to connect the two, without having to feel like I have to balance them out. But yeah, so I think that so there's a question that's not on the list, but I want to ask you because there's different skills between short form and long form. And I know you said you did short form way before you knew that like long form was a thing. Now I'd seen like, short form on TV or whatever, but didn't realize that was short form. But I started out studying long form before I studied short form.
Wow.
And I feel like my brain was so much, when I got to short form, I was like, this is how improv works. So now I can take that short form to long form. But what are your thoughts on if people should do short form before they do long form versus short form? Or is it really just how people play kind of experience what it is to see where their skills lie?
If I was building an improv AI, I would train it on short form first, because long form really takes all of the skills of short form. You'll be in a Herald and you realize, oh, we're doing the alphabet game. Like all of a sudden these short form things, these like, what is the one, countdown, where things get shorter in time. Like all these elements of those quick games, and because they're in bite-sized pieces, as you're in a class learning short form, you don't have this overwhelming monster of an idea of how am I going to make this all fit together? What slot am I in? Is this who's on stage right now? It really does. It's so much cleaner to be like, let me get you two on stage and we're gonna play freeze tag, and like or try that on for size. And I, like comedy sports is a great. I feel like, not that there's an entry level to improv, but that is something that you can take anyone to. My mom, my grandma, my kids, and they're all gonna sit like, oh, I get it, like, because the game is explained, it's fun. And the thing about short form is there's a goal. Like you're kind of looking for something. If you're playing scenes from a hat or props or whatever, you can see where you're going. Long form is really a meandering through the wilderness of ideas. Right. It's
like stretching out the short form.
It's
like you can transfer long form skills to short form, but it almost feels like you can transfer every short form skill to long form, because you're able to enhance the nuances of those games, like taking your time with it, or and that's what I've learned with short form is it's like going straight from, you got to get the who, what, where, you've got to get the premise, you got to get all this stuff out and like really just kind of wrap it up in a nice little bow after 3 or 4 minutes. Whereas long form, you've got 20 minutes to get all these scenes in and kind of then use that little bow at the end, for lack of a better analogy. So
I know you're right. There's that beginning, middle, and element, and we haven't even talked about just like the bread and butter 2-person scene. Or if you're UCB, I guess maybe they like a 3-person. I guess 2-person still the bread and butter. Like just getting up and getting a suggestion and trying to make a scene flow and feel satisfying. That's something that I tell students all the time. That if you can do that, you can do anything. Don't think about the hero. Don't think about how hard this specific game is for you. Like some kids get tripped up on warm-ups. Like I don't like this Zoom thing is killing me. I'm like, dude, if you can do this two-person scene, if you can yes and with a partner, emotionally react, use space work, heighten, and find an ending, you're golden.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice actually, especially for people who I know a lot of people are like intimidated by improv because they just are like, I don't know. But it is like I feel like for me coming from someone who had no confidence like out of college because of my supervisors were just like, they just weren't nice and they weren't like supportive. Going into improv, I was like, well, I have nothing that I can show that I'm good at. I have nothing that I can like pull from because it's all being made up. But once I let that go, I discovered how beautiful improv can be and like how it actually is almost more beneficial than me planning everything
Yeah.
because I'm able to kind of adapt as I need
How
to.
many times in life have you used improv like to get out of situations, to sneak into a party, to like talk your way out of there's so many improv life
Uh-huh.
situations where I'm like, if I wasn't an improviser, I would have been screwed just now. Thank God
Mhm.
I have this background.
All those times where, oh, sorry, I can't make this rehearsal. I've got a meeting, or I can't make this meeting because I've got, whatever going on, but I have an idea,
Yeah. Be quick on
especially
your
on
feet.
Zoom.
A lot of
Um,
Zoom excuses.
yeah, exactly. So on this note, with this whole idea of improv, favorite games, favorite genres, and all of this are types of improv. Do you have any specific moments that you remember from either a class that you were teaching or a class that you were in or a show that you did that you just thought was like a fun scene that you remember or a fun moment that a student had or anything like that, that it's like this, I'll never forget this improv moment.
Oof, man, so many.
Yeah.
I've been teaching for like 10 years. I have moments that I've captured on video where I've had to pull my phone out because my students, like I'll have this advanced teenage class, and there's sometimes when they're cooking at this level where you feel like, oh, I'm at a show.
Mm,
I know I'm teaching them and I'm giving them notes and but like I'm highly entertained right now and I want to capture this for later so I can remember this moment.
mhm.
Um, there was a moment where this will probably sound super sexist, but I'm always very happy when young teenage girls, like between 17 and 22, who are most of the time like self-conscious, can be like very raw and like the boys have no problem getting on stage and kind of like showing how all the
Sure.
extremes of their imagination. But sometimes I feel girls will be more bottled in. But when I've had kids in my class that have blown me away. There's a moment I can remember where a couple of my students, I don't know if I should give their names out, but they know who they are. They just became simultaneous dolphins, and they did like a 3-minute scene as dolphins and committed to, we don't have hands, we don't have words.
Mm,
And it was intense. It was so intense. They met, they fell in love. One of them got pregnant, they broke up, and nobody tagged, nobody swept. It was in a long form, and everybody just watched. And it was one of those moments where I just, your heart's overjoyed because this is
mhm.
maniacal and crazy, and they're flopping around on the floor. For a lot of it, it was like full physical body work on my dirty stage in the theater. And I just remember being like, that's full. This is what you want as a teacher. My heart is full. My heart is full. As a performer, I can remember being at IO and like falling off the stage or having the whole team come off stage. Those were always special moments to me. That theater, for anyone out there that ever went to the old IO West, they had this like staircase up the side of the house, and the stage was kind of just raised and up in front, and there was a lot of opportunity to have like crowd play
Mhm.
and play on that staircase and play behind the curtains. And I just remember like there's times where your whole team would get out there and you were flying without a net. You were flying without a stage, baby.
Mhm. And
So those were good times.
you were what, in Cusack and Tidy Fox?
Yep, yep. And I was
Yeah.
in a team called Stoop Kids. I played on a few teams at IO. Yeah, I just kind of
Because I
bounced around.
remember, I think I told you this. It was a Tidy Fox show I went to, like the one Tidy Fox show I went to while I was at IO, because I was always work studying. I couldn't go. Um, and you guys were like, oh, get a suggestion, of anything at all. We're giving away this Tidy Fox bag. Um,
You still have that
and
bag?
I still have it. And it was just funny because 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 I was like, oh, as an improviser, I shouldn't give out suggestions. I should just and like as I should just wait. and it was like, can we get a suggestion of anything at all? And I literally waited for like 7 seconds and no one said anything. And it was like, and then when you hear the host saying, can we anything at all? Like when you hear the repeat, I was like, I'm just gonna shout it out. And I remember my suggestion
What was it?
Was Tarnation. And I think the first like thing was like it literally being a nation of tar or something. It was like just like a, and I was like, this is great. And I was like, I was, because I remember being like, they need a suggestion. Tarnation. Then I got it, and I
Let
was
the mouth lead and see where the brain follows. Yeah, we made canvas bags as like giveaways, and we would give one out a night. I
and it
remember
was
that.
wild. It was like one of my favorite moments of IO
No.
was just like getting a Teddy Fox bag. I don't know.
That was a great team. What they
It
had
was,
some real hitters on that team. I was
it was
like,
a
that
fun
was one of
show.
those teams where you just feel lucky to be with the other players, you know?
It was a fun show. Honeymoon's great too.
Mm-hmm.
I got to play with Honeymoon. That's a side note, but I
That's
got to
right. You
play.
told me. I remember. We still got to link up and do that, man.
Yeah, we
We'll
do.
talk later.
Send you the YouTube video because they recorded it's on YouTube, so you can see
I
it.
know. You know, during the pandemic, I've been watching old honeymoon shows, and I talked to Nate Ballard and Macklin, and I said,
I'm talking
it's
with Nate
interesting.
tomorrow.
I was telling Nate how when you watch the old honeymoon shows, it's like watching someone else. Like you don't remember that's you from a few years ago. It was highly entertaining.
It was just funny because when I had played with Honeymoon, I'd never seen Honeymoon at all before. And so I didn't know how it just dived into like all these puns and like all this like gameplay like this. And I was like not expecting it. I was just like, oh, it's gonna be like a normal, like long form show. And then
Zero
everything
structure.
and then everything was happening. And I literally my one response to everything was just like, yeah, sure, uh-huh, yep. Because
You
but then halfway through I was like, I'm picking up on it now because they all had like this whole like it was I remember I'm on a tangent, I'll be done, I promise. And they were like oh, Leonardo, no, like it was like all these like painter jokes. And I went in and they were like, what do you think? And I was like, oh, I don't know, this is a bit of a Mona Lisa to me. And I made Mac literally laugh. I broke him because I think they were like not expecting me to like follow this game at all, and I
yeah.
did, and they were all like, "Well," and then Nate was like, well, I'm quitting, and you are now in charge."
It's one of those few teams where they would throw away all narrative, any semblance of good scene. If there's a funny pun or a game, a real gamey game, they just attack. They attack. I've been left behind in a couple of honeymoon shows where I'm like, oh crap! Now they're on a run. I gotta wait till we round this out, and then I'll catch on the next wave.
And it was all the puns where people were like, okay, you know. And then at one point, it was the very last one. It was like they were talking about 4K. This looks good. It's 4K. And then they're like, yeah, well, K doesn't live here anymore, and all this stuff. And then at one point, someone goes, someone literally goes, in the audience, and they go, oh, the judgment of New York, and that was like the end of the show.
That's what we do when they groan at us.
Anyway, so any other favorite moments or anything you can think of?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, that dolphin scene comes to mind, and then a lot of moments at IO. Good moments at IO.
Great. And you kind of touched on this a little bit leading into this next question, going back a little bit with like daily life. What elements of improv do you feel like you use in daily life, or where have you used improv for what specific? We talked about it a little bit, but any other like specific things that you think
I mean,
improv is used for?
Yeah, like as an actor, I use it all the time in acting, but then I use it around acting too. Like that little bit of banter with a casting director before the audition starts. I'm real good at like I get a little saucy. I like to put them in their place. This is my deal with casting directors. They get treated like kings and queens all day long because we're humbly begging them for jobs. So I like to go in real ball bustery and high status improv them, and they love it. Like they go, nice shirt. I go, I know, I picked it out. I'm not stupid. Like everything is me being like a high status jerk the whole time. They go, stand on that mark. I go, oh, you mean the mark over here? The mark on the floor. Like everything is just to give them a little bit of razz, and that seems to work with me a lot.
But also stressful situations, giving a little bit of play and like fun and like
just loosening yourself up and being able to look at another person like dead in the eye and not feel weird about it. That most people can't hold eye contact. If you notice in your day-to-day life, most people are like awkward or in their phone. And I've played mirror game for 15 years of my life. as a theater nerd. Every semester it was like, and find a partner and let's begin. And you'd look them in the eye, and now I've become
stare
like
them
so
down.
yeah, oh man. And yeah, it's just that and improv has been very helpful, like I said, on set around the acting. If I have a co-star and like we have a scene where we're intimate, like they're playing a family member or a loved one, and I don't know them, it's weird to be a human that is supposed to pretend like we've been together for years. But if you're an improviser, you're so used to that. You're like, oh, I've humped strangers at jams. I've been to improv jams and I don't know you and we're kissing. That's weird. That's really weird. But like that's what the scene required, and we just fully went there. Me and some bearded dude that I don't know at the ice house. Like those things are happening all the time. So when you get on set with another actor, there's no awkwardness on my end, and I think that really helps ease them up too.
Sure, that made that whole idea with the working with strangers made me think of, I did a young storyteller show once, and I was a horse, and I was a non-speaking horse, but I was like a horse, like a fairy horse or something. I don't know, and the whole time it was like this person gets on the horse's back, this person jumps on the horse's back, the horse carries them, and all the actors go, "Is it okay?" I'm like, "Jump on me, let's do it, like let's do it." And so
can we all get on you at the same time, Spencer?
And then two of them got on top of me at one time, and there was supposed to be three of them. So then the third one was like off to the side and like helping me push the other two as we were, and it was so funny. Because again, without improv, I would have been like, absolutely not. Like, don't.
Yeah, stranger danger.
Why are you even asking? Like, but with that, I was like, oh yeah, it's a team. Let's all we're all here for the same reason. Let's just do it. Totally. And eventually, and I mean, obviously, the asking if it's okay, like is great. But eventually, if that was like a team I would be working with for like years or whatever, they would know it's okay. Just jump. If you want to jump on my back, jump on it. Like it's cool. Like I can throw in that initiation, or I know you trust me to know that it's okay, and I trust you to know that it's okay, and all this stuff. Eventually, you get to that point, I think, where you just trust your team so much that you're like, yeah, I'm good, which is how it feels with Honeymoon.
Yeah, you're like, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
There is that bunker team mentality, like backstage when I got your back. It's like it's us against the world. We did a corporate show once for, is it Postmates? Like some startup had a crazy office downtown, and they wanted an improv troupe to come in at 9 a.m. and perform in their big open space, like cubicle area where like
big
all
ask
the
for improvisers.
Yeah, and they were like, come on, we want to teach you. We want to teach team building and stuff, so we're just bringing in these improvisers from Second City. And I remember, I can't remember who invited me. It was this hodgepodge team of great players, but that I'd never played with before. And they put us in an office, like a glass meeting, boardroom, and we're sitting in the boardroom looking out the glass as the entire company comes like on their break to come line up to watch. And I remember looking at them going, this is us against them. Like, we don't know. This is not even an improv community. They're literally, it was that feeling of like, guys, please hold, let's all hug. This is scary. And I love you. I love you. I love you. Okay. We love each other. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Speaking of, what would you say if improv had a mascot? What would you say it would be?
I'm going to say off the top of my head, an octopus.
Great.
I feel like, yeah, the big brain, the camouflage, and the many arms are giving me the metaphoric feels. So I'm gonna go with octopus.
I love it. So on that note, this was just because someone had mentioned this, and I was like, I kind of want to know what everyone thinks now with this. So on that note, but completely unrelated as well, I know that there's a lot of, people are starting out at improv, and there are people who have been doing improv for years and all of this. So these next two questions, we'll do one at a time, kind of relate to that idea of people are on different levels of improv. For you, what would you say makes a good improviser?
Low ego. For me, like, you'll get all the tools so much faster when you let go of your pride. And this is something that stand-up comedians learn really fast because they're alone and they feel the sadness of the no laughter and the booing and the heckling. But improv teams sometimes don't, because you're in this team, you can kind of be buffered from like, I don't know. I think to fully be supportive, to fully yes and to fully make your other players look great, you have to be okay not looking great. You have to be okay with failure. You have to be okay not being in much of this Herald tonight, because you're just not in it. That's the rhythm of the night. This is the rhythm of the night.
I think that's the reason why Heralds have 8 people, because there's only 6 people who are going to be them, and they have to be like, you got to learn how to work as a team, because if there's only 6 people, everyone would have the same amount to do.
Yeah, it's true. That's the lesson of like, well, I'll be a second beat guy. I'm gonna start this group game. I've been a tree. I've been like a wardrobe in a scene where I spend like 4 minutes just opening and closing a door, and that's it. And
it's
it
such
felt
low
great.
pressure.
But also it felt great to know that my scene partners needed it. They used me, and that's all you need to have. So I think, yeah, having low ego, not wanting your idea to win, like just playing those baby games, one word story, right? Teaching yourself that, like, yeah, you thought that's where the sentence was going, but they thought it was going somewhere else, and that's just as valid. Letting go of your ideas is so, and actually embracing the fact that our combination is better than anything we could have done alone. That's what, yeah, I think that's what makes it great. But like more specifically, strong initiations, a great mind for callback, space work, man. I'm a fangirl for space work.
Oh, like, we might not get along then. I'm so bad at object and space work.
Me too. No, I'm not great at it, but I'm a fan. Like, yeah, I'll watch people like Red Door. Like, I'll sit in the audience and just be like, "Oh my God, what are you guys doing with your hands right now?" Like, it's so otherworldly. It's like watching a professional mime who happens to do improv. That's the kind of stuff. Or Lorelli, if you ever get to see Kelly Bruman and Lauren, yeah, those guys, those gals, they'll kill with just a silent scene with just their hands. To me, those are, I don't know if those make a great improviser, but those are the things that, like, those make my Michael Jordans. They make my favorite players, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, what's interesting is it seems to be a recurring theme with a lot of these interviews is that coaches and improvisers all say more so skill, it's the personality of the player that seems to be what makes a good improviser, because it is, I've said it a lot and I'll say it again, it's a team sport. It's not an individual competition. It's not even a competition, really. It's everyone helping each other out. And I have this one example, I will never forget it at Comedy Sports, which is why I wish I had done short form first before I did long form, because I understood how, like, oh, it's not about like improvising and being funny. We had a game where we were playing, the other team kept rotating because they just kept talking and they wouldn't let me say anything. So my team wasn't rotating, and I was like, my 2 other teammates haven't played yet. I've got to make a really incorrect choice, or a right choice to be incorrect, so that way they can get in and play. And it was like,
break the game a little.
Yeah. And so it's like, you can't say the letter E at all. And so then, the ref was like, all right, Spencer, your turn. I was like, great. And he's like, you can't say the letter E. And I was like, all right, great, got it. Okay. And then I just went, everybody, it's time to go over here. Like, I just made as many E's as I could get in there, or whatever. It was like, you can only say 3 words. And I was like, I just did. And he was like, and he was like, good job. I was like, yeah.
Screw the rules. Let's get in. Yeah.
Because especially with like something like Comedy Sports, if my team gets the point, I still get the point. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not competing for myself. I'm competing for my team. So it doesn't matter who gets
Comedy Sports is a great way to, like, learn that, like, this is not really about the points, guys. We're trying to have a good show. Right. The show is what counts.
Yeah, exactly. So going off of that, kind of along the same vein, because you teach, you coach, and you perform, and a lot of people want to know, like, let's say you have like let's say it's like a jam or something, or just something where you got like a mashup of a team. And you've got someone who's like, this is my first time, I've never done improv, I'm scared, I want to do this. And you have someone who has been doing improv for like 25 years and they get paired up in a scene. How do you get this one person who's never done improv to feel confident going up against someone who's been working for 25 years? And how do you get the 25-year person to help I guess basically, how do you get them both to feel like they're shining in the scene?
Yeah. I talk about this a lot in class, because I teach a class that's age-based, so the skill levels are vastly different. Like, I get some 20-year-olds who have, like, done groundlings and they're excited to get their beak wet in something else, and then I have some 20-year-olds that are like, I'm a model and my agent told me I should take an improv class. So yeah, here's my advice. I think for players who haven't had much experience, who find themselves in what I would call like deeper waters improvising, where they feel out of place or a little uncomfortable. I like to give them the power. I think there's something about empowering them to know that everything they say will be true. So I explained to them, look, this is a game we're about to play, and it's a make believe game. But here's the thing: I can't deny anything you say. So you may feel like kind of restricted, like I'm not sure what to say. But if you tell me I'm standing here in my underwear right now, I'll say, oh, damn, where are my clothes? Right.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree with everything you say. So giving them, pairing them up with a more experienced player, I would explain to them, look, she knows the rules. So the person you're playing with is going to take care of you. Be bold, be brave, initiate strong, and I feel like there's two type of beginning players in my experience. The one that can't stop because they think this is their insecurity and maybe past success in a way of like being the star of the improv scene makes them feel like they're going to ham it up. Or you'll have the very introverted, oh my God, the fear of not knowing what to say will shut you down. But either one of those beginning players needs to understand spoken is truth. So just say it's raining today. Say I'm uncomfortable. Also, I love giving them the power that you can label your state of being. You don't have to make up that there's a bear over there. You can just say, I'm confused, John. Because you feel confused, right? Good. Just look at your scene partner and say, I'm confused. And like, they're like, I can do that. I'm like, oh yeah, totally. You can do that. That's a great piece of information. Just say your emotional state. For more experienced players, on the flip side of that question, I usually tell them, you're not going to look good on your own. I tell this to a lot of people going into commercial auditions. A lot of commercial auditions are paired up improvisations with strangers. And I've been with people, you always know that guy who's sitting in the lobby with you. I'm really good at improv. Yeah, I've done it for years. I'm like, why are you can't be. Not when you say that.
Yeah, if
so
you
then
have to
you
tell
get in
me
the
you're good at it, you're not.
when you get in the room, they make big bold choices. Can I see two guys watching a football game and action? Oh, my team's gonna win. Beer, bro. Those chicks last night. It's like too much. He's throwing everything at you. And then so my goal when I'm that person who I feel like, well, I know how to improvise and maybe you don't so much. Don't back away. Don't feel like they're weird. Lean in and support them. Make them the old trope that we hear a lot, make them look like poets and geniuses. I think that serves you so well when you're with someone that you might even label as a bad player, but let's just say like an inexperienced, doesn't have much to add to the scene player. Either one of those spectrums on the other end of your scene, I think will be well served by you thinking, that's brilliant. Yeah, bro. Yeah, I love your energy right now. Because your first instinct is going to be, oh, dude, you're ruining my audition. But that doesn't serve you. If you cringe and back away from him, you both look bad. He looks like a boorish weirdo, and you look like the scared guy who's
look uncomfortable.
Frame. So I think lean in and let's both be weird together and see where that goes.
I love that. This also kind of relates to this. So improv is a lot about they say yes, and. But a lot of times I know that when I'm in classes or other people in classes are like, I keep getting this note of saying, I'm always saying yes. And I feel like I'm saying yes, but I need to get that and in there. What do you say is like a yes, like a yes versus yes and? What does yes and mean? I mean, very much like, yes and also this thing, but what's the difference between yes and yes anding someone?
Yeah, I mean, the first rule you learn is like don't negate. So that's the yes. Just you can even have silent, just kind of tacit agreement. That's fine. But I think the and is where you bring something to the table. And there's a lot of different styles, just like in a potluck. You might bring a side dish, you might bring the main course. There's different styles of and. When I was a kid in middle school, I always learned the and was in the details. And that's all I thought it was. Someone says, that's a nice shirt. I would say, yes, and it's blue. Yes, and it has buttons. Yes, and details specifically, right? Sarah's mad at you. Yes, and she's steaming mad. Yes, and she sent me a text. Yes, it was always like just details about that. Yes. But as I grew older, I learned that the and can be a because. Right? Like I love yes because I think that's one of the most powerful advancements you can make from going as far as elevating your game from the amateur way to a professional way is you first of all, you'll start to see great improvisers remove the yes. right? Because we can just assume that the yes is there and we're already onto the and maybe the second and third and. The and also, so the difference is because there's so many styles of what the and can be. It's just a matter of bringing something else to the table. I know my groundlings training had me do a lot of the game called What That Means Is, which was such a fabulous game. Your partner says to you, you're late for dinner, and you'd say, I'm late for dinner. What that means is, and then you deliver the next line of dialogue. What that means is, everybody's looking at me. And then they say, everyone's looking at you. What that means is grandma's mad, right? And then we'd keep building and building and building just that way. And that what that means is always gave me a way to look into like a temporal idea, like time, whether like, what does that mean about I'm late for dinner? What that means in the past is that I got caught in traffic. What that means right now is that everyone's looking at me. What that means for the future is that, oh gosh, so we can't do cake on time. We're going to miss the fireworks. What that means is can give you like 3 branches off of one initiation that are always there for you. So yeah, I think that little widget too is very helpful.
Yeah.
Not just yes, but yes and.
I love that. And I also think what's interesting, and this is something that I picked up on, I guess, later on in my improv career. It's not like I've been doing it that long, but you know, once I took a couple of classes, I have to learn to say yes as an improviser, not necessarily as the character.
Right.
Like for instance, like I remember doing the scene where someone was like, "Oh, you're so annoying. You should stop bugging me." And that was the character saying, or sorry, the improviser going, "Yes, I understand what your initiation is, and I know that you want me to keep bugging you." So my character is saying yes, and by doing the thing that the character doesn't want me to do in the scene, if that makes sense. But
you yes the idea. Sometimes you yes the game. Sometimes yesing the game is knowing the dialogue, is saying no to the dialogue, right? I do that all the time. I'll negate you hard if you label me a negator.
Right. And I think that's the big thing is that I think what I learned is that saying yes doesn't literally mean saying yes. It literally means saying yes, like you said, yes to the idea and going with whatever the scene is asking for. Because if someone in a scene goes, "Stop bugging me," and the person goes, "Okay," then the scene's over. There's no.
I see that a lot. I see people throw away their initiation or throw away the entire package that they've developed for their character to say yes because they know that's the rule. And then like they're mad about their job, and their scene partner does the horrible mistake of trying to fix their problem. Like, well, don't worry, I got you a new job. Come on, come work for me and you'll make more money. Okay. And it's like, well, the grumpy guy was what the scene was about. I was watching him plot his revenge. I was enjoying him losing, and you erased it to say yes to this way out of the problem. And that usually is a bummer.
So on that note, it also makes me think of, so I know that a lot of times people like to jump in an initiation if they feel like no one's saying anything, right? Someone's setting up, but like, let's say I, as an improviser, come out and I like, maybe I'm starting to like, I'm bad object work. I'm starting to like, you know, cut vegetables or whatever.
Is that you cutting vegetables?
It's, you know, yeah. This is me typing at one point. I was like typing. I don't know. Object work is not my strong suit. I had a whole class in it, and I need to take more classes on object work. But anyway, so let's say I'm cutting vegetables in whatever way I'm cutting vegetables, and someone comes in because they see me on stage, but then they start talking because they think that maybe my initiation was me cutting vegetables as opposed to me having this idea in my head, which again, sometimes there is that idea in my head of this is what my initiation line is going to be, but sometimes it is like someone just needs to get out on stage and do something, and I'm glad that you said something.
Spoken wins. It's so frustrating. That happens a lot.
So what would you say, like, how I guess this is more of like an intuition thing once you've been doing it a long time, but how do you kind of determine like this person came out and they have an idea, or this person wants me to come out and do something since they've just started doing object work? Like, how do you balance or find that ability to kind of gauge like when you should be initiating versus when you should let that person initiate with their object work?
Yeah, I think once they've set up, like once I've seen you do what I would call one beat, which is like an ill-defined acting term, but yeah, like I've seen you do a beat of sweeping the floor, that I feel like you're begging me to come on stage and support you. I feel like if we're in a team, you know, if we're in, maybe if we're doing 2 prov, you got something you're setting up and I'll hang back. But if we're in like a 6 to 8 person team, I assume you don't think you're going to be out there very long. That hasn't been the way it's been in any rehearsal. So I would just make the clear assumption that I'm allowed to come out. You want me to come out and initiate with you. But I think it's incumbent upon that second player to bring with them in their initiation that first player's deal. You can't leave behind the cutting vegetables and just, okay, so I remember the open and we were talking about cuckoo clocks. So cuckoo clocks, and like make this person have to go, okay, but the vegetables, like, you know, like that's a shit move. I think I don't, sorry, excuse my language. No, okay. That's the kind of move that like I don't support. I don't think you're being helpful in that way by initiating just a left turn. There's actually a fun game called Rope. I don't know if you've ever played. It's a dual initiation game on purpose. You face away from each other on stage, and one person, you can do it in 2 lines. One person will do space work, anything they want. Just, I'm swinging a bat, and another person's going to initiate without looking, just like big and strong and bold opening line, right? Like, Mom, I got dumped again. And then you turn and face each other, and don't stop swinging the bat, and don't let go of your emotional state, and make the scene work. So you're forcing, like, she thought the scene was about whatever her space work was, and you start with this big line of dialogue because you couldn't see each other, and then turn and face each other, and then make it work. Yeah, honey, well, okay, I got the softball. We're gonna break his headlights, right? Like, she's gonna figure out how that made sense in that moment very quickly. And those games are great. It teaches you, you're fine. You can still make this work. You can still figure it out.
I've done that, but we've done it where on the count of 3, both people say a line of dialogue.
Oh, that's
and
fun
then
too.
You have to respond to the other line of dialogue using the initiation that you presented, which is tough, but it really it causes your brain to trust the relationship of characters in a scene. Because it was a lot of IO when I did that.
And it teaches you not to erase it. A lot of people will erase it. They'll go, oh no, never mind your thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, but the audience heard your thing too, or saw your space work, so we want it all.
Once you've heard it, you can't really, or seen it, you can't really drop it. You got to kind of let it ride.
Different people have different philosophies. I had a teacher once say, it's never too late to grab an accent, and never too late to grab an accent or drop that baby. Or or get the baby. I can't remember. Like, he was explaining that in scenes, sometimes you realize halfway through the scene, oh, everyone's doing a different accent. You can just drop your accent and go, oh no, I was rehearsing for the play, that's why I was doing that accent. Or you didn't know you were supposed to be holding that baby. Oh, I'm the mom in this scene, here's the baby. For me, that's always felt like cheating to me. It's like, we saw that you started different, so now make that new thing work.
Or it's like, if it's like, I didn't know you were gonna hold that baby. It's like, oh yeah, and then you walk over to the crib and get the baby.
That's what
as opposed to just lift up
magic, right? Just
my magical baby came up. So another thing that I find fascinating is this idea of A to C'ing an idea, where you hear a suggestion, or like, let's say it's a Herald, it's an organic opening, and let's say the suggestion was pineapple, because that seems to be a very big improv suggestion. But I've always seen a lot of people either do like an organic opening where they're at a luau, or the first scene, if it's like a 2-person scene, it's like, oh, I got a bunch of pineapples, like throwing in that actual like they're just A to A-ing it.
Right.
When do you, what I guess, what does A to C mean for you, and when do you feel like it's appropriate to like just completely just use the word, like if the suggestion is horse and you just say the word horse in your first scene? When does that make sense? When do you feel
I think I would shy away from that. I'm not, I don't want to poo-poo anybody's game, but for me, the pinnacle, the highest level of this art is where you don't see it. You know, like that. I think the A to C that you're talking about. So what does it mean to me? Just by definition, we're talking about skipping over the letter B, right? So it's about making an assumption past the most obvious assumption that's coming next. And I love people that A to C in dialogue. I love, like, there's a player named Justin, I'm gonna say his last name wrong, on
Day Job.
Yes, he is now on Day Job, yes. And one of my favorite things that I see him do all the time is, like, you'll say, we're out of mayonnaise, and he'll go, if you want to break up with me, just break up with me. Like, he's so far down the line. He's like, we're out of mayonnaise, which means I'm a crappy boyfriend, which means if you want to, like, so he'll just go 2 steps down. That's what I mean by skipping the B. I love that in scenes. I love it in initiations, where I remember the first beat of the Herald. So we were setting up to rob that bank. Now, when we come back to that second beat, me and the entire audience is expecting to see us rob that bank. but you take us to like a retirement home. It's like, how, like, just, I love when that happens, when even the jump in the writing is just a big shift. It's so pleasant for me because it's surprising. Comedy is surprise, right? So if the audience beats you to it, you've failed. It's a nightmare. Doing a luau after Pineapple is going to make them hate you and think to themselves, well, why am I watching you when I could do this? Right. I could have thought of that. Yeah, you gotta go further. For me, that's my taste.
I agree too. I think that especially when you get the three, I think what I've heard the most times for suggestions are pineapple, pickle, and improv. And I think it's like,
I've heard a lot of curse words from drunken hecklers back in the old.
sure,
There was a bar in IO, so people were always yelling out obscenities and be like, "All right, let's do it. Come on, team."
And I think it's also like, it's like people are like, ha, improv, you know. I mean, I know like at comedy sports they always get what's a genre, and everyone goes comedy, and their response is, well, we're trying, you know. So it's like that. I think that's always fun because it's like, you're saying comedy, but it literally, we're trying to do comedy here. So doing a genre of comedy within comedy is, you're not getting anything new from that. Right. But speaking of I guess new, we touched a little bit on two-prov before. You know, there's two-prov, and then there's 8-prov, or however many people you want to have. But I do a two-prov team, and I also do like a musical improv team and all these things. And I feel like they all have different skills. But what I've learned with a two-prov is I have a partner that I trust, and I know that he knows every single thing that I'm about to say. Pretty much, he knows everything I'm going to do. He knows what like grinds my gears. He knows what is going to make me break, and vice versa. Yeah. So I don't know how much two-prov you've done, but when you do two-prov, do you feel like you get that experience, that trust from that two-prov partner? And do you feel like it's a good idea to even do two-prov with someone else to keep it fresh?
Yeah, the only two-prov I've ever done has been by accident. It's like, well, no, what is this text thread? Okay, so 6 of our players aren't coming tonight.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of that, or where I've showed up for a show and I didn't know it was going to be two-prov, and then we did some two-prov. Sure. So I've never had a two-prov partner.
Well, in that case, when you have like a team of like 8 players, and let's say it's a herald, and you have 2 people to do a herald or whatever, it sounds like you might have done that. How would you say it's different doing it with 8 people versus doing it with 2, knowing one, there's a specific structure that might make it more difficult with 2 people, but knowing that you have only one person that you're supporting in that evening versus 8?
Funnily enough, I find the two-prov to be it's stressful when I'm about to go on stage, and then very relaxing once it starts, because I'm in so many of the scenes. And like I said earlier, it's the only time, it's like mindfulness for me, dude. I'm totally meditative and watching everything my partner's doing and trying to incorporate it. And only in my sideline work can I start to get back into that. Well, okay, what's the next beat? What do I owe from earlier? But since two-prov doesn't give you much sideline time, even on the sideline, you're probably supporting with soundscape and all that other stuff, scene painting. So it's relaxing. I feel chill when I do a two-prov. It blows by. I don't even notice when they pull the lights. I'm like, that's it. Like that thing feels fast and smooth. Whereas I spend a lot more time, I think, stressed out in a normal herald or other long form type shows where I'm playing double dutch a lot. Like I'm thinking about getting in and getting out. Two-prov, I kind of settle. It feels very chill. I don't know. It feels way more chill for me. Yeah, I'd say the difference is obvious. I mean, obviously the requirements for what you're responsible for, right? Like I'm doing 50 to 60% of this dialogue in a two-prov. I'm going to talk a lot. So there's a lot of just making sure that you here's what I do. I turn my filter up in two-prov, as far as I don't want to say nonsense. I don't want to throw gamey things in. This is going to be a long road, like a marathon. So I try not to burn. I'm not going to be very punny. I don't do like my honeymoon game.
Don't burn all the steam right away.
No, because that's a nightmare. So I usually try to settle. I find that in two-prov I sit a lot, not on purpose, but just I'm thinking back. I'll start in a chair. I usually am old and like wise. I'm just trying to slow it down a lot. I think that's what I do in two-prov. Whereas normal shows, I'm like, let's go.
Always on your toes, literally. I remember one phrase. I had Holly Laurent for my 5B at IO.
Love her. She's
amazing.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And one thing that she said that I will never forget, which this was, I think, the moment where improv clicked for me, and it took me till, and this is again for people watching and listening, 5B is like the last level of IO West, and that's like level 6. And after I took, classes here and classes there, finally level 6 is where it clicked for me when she said,
"Put your clothes on, Spencer."
No.
Like, Spencer, this is not what this class is about.
That's next door. She literally said, think of it as a basketball game. When you're on the sideline waiting to go on, you're on the court. And when you're on stage, you're on the bench. And the second she said that, I went, I have been so worried about going on stage, and that's the easier part.
Yeah.
So the whole time I was thinking about it backwards. And as soon as that happened, I was like, that was the first moment where improv clicked for me. And then really awesome improv show auditions this year, another thing clicked for me. So I start to find these moments that click. And again, I'm not finding everything about improv at once, but the one major thing that I keep saying that clicked, because that's just how I feel, is I literally, as soon as she said that, I went, oh my gosh, I totally understand this part of improv. Not that I understand improv in general.
No, but that sideline play. Yeah, she was the coach of my second city team, Shimpo, and she gave us that same lesson. Your sideline play is where you're really she would play on the sidelines, on her toes. And if you watch old Reckoning shows, her legendary team from Chicago, you'll see her kneeling on the edge of stage, looking like a sprinter in the gate, ready to go. She's intense. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and Reckoning's great too. They're great team. Last question I have for you, which is kind of the reason that I wanted to do this improv summit, is because I get a lot of people that are like, Spencer, you do a lot of improv, and I always get this question, where should I take improv? And it feels like such a loaded question to me. So what I want to ask you is, if someone came up to you and said, Japheth, where should I take improv? How would you respond to that? Or what would your suggestion be to someone making that decision?
Yeah, the first thing I do is pitch myself, because I'm completely selfish and want more money.
But you're also a really good improviser and a good teacher. So
no. What I honestly, I tell this to students in my class. I say, you shouldn't just be training here. This is if you were this is a sport. It is a sport. You should think of it as a sport. If you're serious about basketball or cheer or whatever your thing is that gets you in a team, then you would never just go to one place. Be like, yeah, I learned basketball from Coach McMichelson, and Coach McMichelson is all I ever learned. You would go, well, no. I remember as a young basketball player myself, I did a defensive camp for a summer where we just practiced defense all summer. That was it. We never even touched the ball. We just worked on defense. It was insane. Or going to different workshops and camps. That's the way you would do in a sport. That's the way I recommend to do in improv. You're going to learn something from the groundlings that I'm not going to teach you. You're going to learn something at Second City that I'm not going to teach you. So there's so much available to you. I call it the buffet. And I think if you don't look at everything and take a little sample, you're just gonna stick with the first thing you got on your plate. That seems very silly to me. Different things,
bottomless buffet,
right? If you can go anywhere. I mean, Toronto, Vancouver, improv is everywhere. Is this weird thing that nobody talks about unless you're a late night talk show host. Nobody is talking about improv in a way. It's such a secretive, weird, special cult where I recognize improvisers all the time. I've had people say to me, do you do improv? I'm like, yeah. They're like, I could tell. We're at a bar, and I'm like, I could tell too. It's we're a tribe. It's this weird thing. But yeah, if you train at one place, you're going to get a limited view of what this art is. I've had teachers that have been subpar, and I've had teachers. My level 3 with Craig Kakowski changed my life. And Jason Schatz. I've had some teachers that I'm like,
Jason, I love Jason.
I'm good now. You just filled up my bucket with so much little bits of knowledge. Colleen Doyle. Oh man, they're amazing.
I had Colleen too.
These people, they're underappreciated humans on the planet, because they really do teach you something that's a special kind of life skill. So yeah, to answer your question, telling young people, try the place out that's nearest to you right now. I don't know where you are in America. Maybe you're not in LA where I am, or in Chicago or New York. Just do you in the first improv place you find. Don't judge it, because I've heard people be like, well, the first class was horrible. We did Zoom and then the teacher talked and we went home. Trust me, and give it a few classes. You're gonna have that breakthrough moment where you catch the bug, and then you're gonna get hungry, and you're gonna go hunting for more classes. You're gonna be online looking for jams to just get up on stage and get stage time, and that's a beautiful like trajectory to be on. But don't start with a limited view of a place to play. Oh, and more specifically, UCB to tighten up your gameplay, Groundlings to tighten up your characters, Second City to tighten up your overall long form and to get your experience in front of an audience, which I think is is a huge key in your improv career.
I love that. That's a lot of great words of wisdom, and we'll have to talk about the improv bug that I caught, which I wasn't planning on catching, but it happened.
Yeah.
We could talk about that at another time.
Should we do a short scene?
Yeah, you want to do a scene? Let's
Let's do it.
So I have this lovely website that I've used called canigeta.com, which just randomizes a suggestion. So I'll let you pick if you want a location, a relationship, or a word.
Oh, I don't. Let's go with a word.
Word, great. The word is supersonic.
Nice.
Supersonic. That's our.
Can we get some applause, audience? Oh, they're clapping. They're clapping.
I'll clap. Yeah, so we'll keep it like 2 minutes.
Sure. You just let me know if this new implant feels right for you. I'm gonna go interocular. Yep. Just don't touch right away. If you touch right away, it's very sensitive. It's very sensitive.
It needs time to like kind of process.
Yes. Yes.
Got it. Right.
While it settles, I like to get to know a little bit about my patients.
Sure. I wasn't expecting to be interviewed, but I mean, sure. I got nothing else to do. I got to wait for the implant, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I noticed that you're not wearing a wedding ring.
No, I'm not.
All right.
I definitely am not. I'm single, very single.
Great. That's all. I don't need to know anything else. Only your marital status and the depth of your ear cavity, which I will tell you again is 6 millimeters. Very impressive.
Oh, thank you. I don't know much about measurements. I'm kind of just put stuff in my ear, take it out kind of guy.
Great, great. I'm gonna go ahead and calibrate your frequency. If you can just hum at a level that a person who's monogamous, who has found the life partner might hum at.
Okay, yeah, okay, great. So a little, maybe like an A flat ish kind of
Sounds
range.
sure. Whatever harmonics you think a person in love would make.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, here we go.
Are you feeling any tingling?
Nope.
And how about loneliness?
No, I feel great actually. I feel better than I did before.
Okay. All right. And that is all set. So according to your insurance, the billing should come through in a month or so, and we'll have a follow-up appointment set up for you in 2 weeks.
Oh, I need to come back?
Yes, we have to do the other ear.
That makes sense. I guess.
Do you have a problem committing to a 2-week schedule?
No, it's just I just the first one I thought was fine. I mean, I'm not really committed to anything long term.
Yeah, I sort of noticed that. All right. Well, I guess you should call for that Uber.
Can I touch it now?
I have been trying not to lose my professional decorum, seeing as how we have just a courteous relationship here. I wrote a note in the appointment that I sent to you. I'm Patricia from the front desk, and I said, we will see you next Thursday, XO Patricia. And then your reply was very curt, I would say.
I just said thanks.
Is there something about me specifically?
I'm sorry. Patricia, I just was, thinking you sent me an email and say like, oh, follow-up appointment, and I was like, yeah, sure, great, got it. It was just more of like a quick, like professional, completely strictly professional email correspondence. No underlying messages, at least on my end, just completely professional, just like, thank you for the reminder.
Absolutely. It was cold. I would say cold. as I read it, I felt I was expecting us to bond on a deeper level. And now that I've seen what the inside of your left ear looks like, I will never be able to forget it. So if this is where you walk out of my life, and you're not coming back next Thursday, then goodbye, Daniel.
Well, I now see. Now I'm getting a little mixed signals here. I just want to try. Do you want me to come back, or do you need me to come back?
According to Kubler-Ross's hierarchy of needs, I both want and need you to come back. Please come back.
I'm sorry, the implant got a little glitchy. Can you say that again?
Please come back next Thursday at 3.
Oh, that's the A flat. That's the sound of love.
Well, we'll get you all set up with a little reminder card.
As long as you put XO on it.
Can you hear my heart beating a little faster?
I can. It's going a little like a natural now. It's going a little. It's raising its pitch a little bit.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
And that's our scene.
That was fun.
Ridiculous, so fun. I love your guy. I love your control guy. You know what's funny? Lately, I've been trying not to say the word straight man and oddball, just because it feels so weird to say.
Well, also,
you know?
straight man, it's like
right. It's like the straight man's normal. Like what is this nonsense? So I've been calling it the control and the oddball. And I like it because it feels like you're in control, and also you're our baseline in this science experiment. And your control guy was so great. He just like he was just calling me out and being uncomfortable, and lovely
well,
details.
I think you're oddball. I mean, I'm giving you compliments. No, I feel like what I loved about your character is that I knew what your character wanted, so I tried to keep your character from getting it too early. So it was a very clear. I mean, it was great, the initiation with like don't touch it yet, and then like, you know, going into, I was like, oh, this is a personal versus professional thing. I gotta figure this out. And then your character going into like this, it's like, well, now I feel bad, so now I should. But then the whole want need thing I think was great, because it was like want need, like I need you. It's like, well, if you need me, I guess I'll come back.
Yeah, so it was great. And your guy's fun to explore. Like if this is the Herald, I'd love to like I want to work play and home that guy and take him around on some tag runs. It'd be fun. That was fun, man. I haven't done improv with you in a long time.